would say if the thing that you like want to do most is become a dancer professionally, like everybody comes from like a different place and has like a different set of circumstances. So I can't necessarily give blanket advice because maybe some things are harder or more difficult to like further attainable than for other people. Like even just if you grow up in a city versus like if you're really far out in the suburb, just getting good knowledge in a craft or a culture can be hard to do. So the one thing I would say is really just that it comes down to passion more than really anything, because, and there's just like varying levels of that, because it's like, it's gonna be hard and there's always gonna be moments where you might like wanna quit what you're doing because it's not reaching a level of success that you want it to reach. But the thing is, if you're somebody that feels that what you're doing isn't like worth the risk, then it's going to be really, really hard to beat somebody and have the same job as somebody that would rather starve than not do what they love to do, right? So, not that you should do that, right? Because if you're somebody that like really can't sustain yourself off of dance and due to your whatever is happening in your life, then, you know, obviously it's like you shouldn't be starving yourself, but just know that there always is somebody who would starve themselves just to be able to dance more, right? Just because they're a crazy enough artist to want it that bad, that they'd rather not do anything at all than do what they love to do, right? Or than not be able to do what they love to do, yeah? So I think in order to really genuinely not expect, but be able to receive like any real reward in what you love to do, you can't really ask anything of dance, right? You have to give everything to your dance, because then just by investing as much as you can, that's the only way that something can come back, right? Dance is not going to reward you back in your life if you don't give it as much attention and as much nourishment as it could possibly get. So if you're honest with yourself and you know that you're not giving something your 100%, then you shouldn't necessarily expect to get rewarded back for that. You get what I'm saying? Which is a hard thing to cope with, right? Because it's like we all just have lives and it's really hard. It's really hard to give something 100% of your time. But when you really want something, that's really the only way it can be in the end, you know? Yeah. Any other questions? Other questions? Other questions? Yes?
Would you put in the Young Lions Academy or something else in K-Town?
Yeah. Oh, in K-Town? Whoa, that'd be so dope, man. That would be amazing. That would be really amazing. So I'm actually like most of the stuff that I'm working on this year is I've been really lucky that like my career as a choreographer, I've been doing stuff long enough to the point where a lot of really cool opportunities are coming to me through connections or past things that I've worked on. So as far as like being a choreographer is concerned, I'm lucky that a lot of those things come to me randomly and I can't really like try to get those anymore. They just kind of come as they come. But as far as like things that I want to put my time into, most of my goals this year are basically surrounded around building community and building the dance community again. I came up in dancing at a time where it was like really about respect for your craft and respect for those that have like paved the way before you. I think that a lot of that has been like kind of washed away in some of the newer generation, in the sense that a lot of newer generation isn't necessarily crediting those that have come before them and all the like hard work that people have paved the way for them to be able to do what they love to do. So essentially, I really want to try and create programs and social activities and even social platforms, or like I just started a collective page, a blog page called We Hear the Roar, that I basically just want to celebrate under-celebrated dancers that are working really hard at their craft, that really love what they do. I feel that as a dance community, we used to come together a lot more to celebrate people who really put time and work into their craft. And the only way that you could see what they would do is when you would see it right in front of your face in person. Or you would travel really far to go see this person dance, right? In person, because there's nothing that you could ever feel from a video that like will do justice of seeing somebody dance just right there in person, you know? So I'm really basically just trying to build this level back up of where people like really love what they do, and the only reason they're doing it is for the sake of exchanging with other people, because that's the basis of what dance is, right? Dance is like, there's only a few things that make people human, right? Which is like singing, like art, like agriculture and things like that, and like dance. We're like the only thing on this planet that's ever danced, really, you know? There's other things like animals and stuff, but this is like mating and things, right? But we're the only thing on this planet that since the beginning of our existence has done this thing to express ourselves, right? And the tightest thing about that is that like with dance doesn't like need anything from you. It's free for everybody, right? It's free for everybody all across the world, all the time, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, since forever in mankind. So honing back into those reasons of why we dance, I think is something that's really important to me. So to answer your question in a really long form, I really hope to create whether it be studios, jams. I think a couple dancers out here have been hitting me and Shay up that they want to have a session while we're out here. We're going to try and do that and connect with everybody here and just exchange. So stay tuned on that. But yeah, like really, I want to open studios everywhere. I want to have seminars and workshops and things that I miss about the dance world that have like really kind of taken a back seat to a lot of videos in this, you know? And I used to really just love feeling for people, and so I want to do really as much as I could do to do that. So yes, I hope so someday. Yeah. Question. You're awesome, by the way. You're fresh. Yeah, go ahead.
So obviously freestyle, super talented music, and when you're freestyling in the room with training, it's completely different to say you want to start battling.
Yeah.
Or like the topic you're going to have, how do you like tackle going into a vibrating something versus being
Totally. So that's like a really hard thing, and I think a lot of freestylers struggle with this even as well. For me, like I would be getting off by myself, but then the moment that I get around like people that I cared about or I respected their opinion, all of a sudden there was just like all this like fear to be dope, right? And like I realized I just spent enough time in the scene, watching enough battles and watching enough, like reinvesting myself in this culture and not expecting that I would fit in, and really just looking at like why. I know I'm a good dancer, I know I've danced for a really long time, and I know my body, but how come when I get out here, I freak out, and I don't do anything cool, and I'm so like caught up about doing something cool that I actually don't even express anything. I just express really like nervousness. That's the only thing that comes out in the end. Quality of movement and nervousness, right? But upon like really studying people that I watched them do like a round that blew my mind. Every time I watched someone that I couldn't even believe what I was seeing was real, I realized that what made it that way is that this person was really just purely expressing themselves. They weren't intentionally like playing on a certain vocabulary. They weren't intentionally like trying to impress somebody. they actually just express themselves. Now, if you ask a lot of people, like, of course, a lot of people are gonna like other freestyle dancers who are more impressive and win the battle. But for me personally, having watched dance so long, the people that I find the most fascinating are those that win battles based off of, like, they just looked pure, you know? They just looked like this is what they were like meant to do almost, and not that they were trying to win a battle, you know? And I've had to like really like work up the courage to start getting in battles and stuff recently. And it's like a really different mentality because when you're training, it's like all positive, right? And depending on who you're battling, it's like positive and negative energy, right? Or it's like so positive that it's like not really even a battle, right? There's not like an edge to it. So it's like really hard to judge depending on who you're with. So it's really just a whole energy that you actually just have to fully throw yourself into. And the only way that I've started to tackle that is by going to sessions and like forcing myself to get out as much as possible, forcing myself to go out when someone that I was like so impressed by just went and I naturally don't want to go out, but it's like that's my fear talking. And that fear that I'm fueling by not going out because this person was so good is the same fuel that'll lose the battle. When someone rips me in a round, it's like, if I have that same energy in the session where I'm like, oh, I can't go out, they just killed that, then how am I gonna win a battle? If they just ripped it, oh, I can't go out, well, you're in the battle, right? You're gonna lose the battle, right? So basically, breaking yourself to have the courage, even if you don't. So I kept going to battles this year, or last year, and I went to a couple, and then I realized like, I got to the point where I was training enough at home that I felt like I got to a battle and I decided, I don't want to stand here the whole time and watch. Like I want to battle. Like I want to go in. So impromptu, I decide, all right, I'm going in. Like on the spot. It'd be last call, like, you know, last sign-ups, whatever, and I'll just last minute decide to pop in. And throwing myself into that unprepared has been the biggest way to build my confidence. Because once you're actually in it and you've been training and working hard and it's something you want to do, you actually pretty quickly realize like, oh, this is really mostly something in my head. And the more that I'm in this, the more comfortable I feel. Now that I have 2 battles under my belt, I feel more comfortable. 3, 4, 5. I've lost this time, I went further this time. It starts to not matter as much anymore. And so that's really all it is just forcing yourself to break out of that initial fear. And it literally is just practice. The same, practice makes perfect. It's like the same thing, you know? It's just conquering more fear rather than just dance, you know? Yeah. Question?
How do you balance training and freestyle and choreography? Does your freestyle feed your choreography?
Yeah. So mostly at this point, because I've been choreographing since the beginning of me dancing, from the same year I started dancing, I was choreographing. So my choreography approach has basically changed like probably every 2 to 3 years in a very like specific way. Like I'll have a very specific way that I choreograph. And that has changed a lot over 15 years. And recently I've actually only focused on training within freestyle and using that knowledge to improve my choreography. Because now I don't have to work on improving my choreography. I'm just naturally getting better as a dancer by pure practice because I'm freestyling more. So when I wasn't freestyling more, it's really just the only times I'm dancing are in other people's classes or choreographing on my own or teaching, right? So there's not a lot of room for growth, but if you have a 3-hour session with people that are way better than you, you're gonna pull up really fast in that 3-hour session, maybe more than you ever would in maybe 6 months, 8 months of taking dance classes or choreographing by yourself. Because you're not challenged enough. You're not put on the spot enough to be like, oh, I'm not good. You know? Oh, wow. This person literally doesn't even care about what they're doing right now, and I think that they're like 1,000 times better than me, right? And knowing and dealing and like coming to terms with that is the best way you learn, because it instead of being scared about becoming good, it's like, dude, I want to be like them. I want to be like that person. I want to feel how that person feels because it's just pure for this person, right? So getting around that and then using that knowledge, my choreography is constantly shifting and changing because me as a dancer is constantly shifting and changing. So new flows, new little things that I pick up other dancers doing, I'm picking up 30 new flavors per freestyle session and maybe only 2 or 3 new, like even moments if I'm training just in dance classes, you know? But it also depends on where you're at in dance, right? Like I've been doing choreography and dance choreography and also know it's difficult for me at this point in the sense that most of the main choreographers between like 15 and 23 or something right now, I know every single person that they've combined all their styles from and where it came from. And I've trained with all of those original people who had these styles from the beginning. So when I'm seeing 15 or 16-year-olds, some of the new choreographers, not that I can't learn anything from them because they are melting and twisting and innovating on top of it, but I know the genesis of it and where it came from, so I'm more trying to get as much unique knowledge as I can and not like new versions of old knowledge, you know? And where I'm looking at where I lack the most, right? So it's like, my choreography is cool, but I could do more house. I could learn more locking. I could learn more popping. Oh, I thought I had a lot of popping. I go to the electric boogaloo camp with Sugar Pop and Pete and Wiggles, and I take 6 hour-and-a-half classes from them in 2 days, and I've never improved that much as a dancer in 3-4 years. Because it's like quality of knowledge, you know? So at this point, I'm really just searching the quality of knowledge that I can't attain anywhere else and valuing, putting a lot of value on that to boost my choreography. And then I don't even have to think about choreo, you know? But it's all about where you're at. So that's where I'm at. I know, okay, choreo, 15 years, a bunch of freestyle from early on, but I could have so much more, okay? So I'm gonna plug in here, 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 and here, and that's how I'm gonna build everything together. It's kind of like a strategy. Just look where you lack, but still interested. Because the problem is if you invest into something you're not fully interested in, again, it's not as good of a return. You wanna be the most excited about what you're doing because then you're gonna have the best reward from that. You get what I'm saying? So find what you love the most and then just dive deep on that. And then once you're like, okay, I feel good about this, dive deep on the next thing that you're obsessed with. Yeah. Yes?
Where do you get the inspiration to like start up your own choreo?
Do you mean like each piece, or do you mean like ever choreographing?
Like just in general.
So for me, at this point, choreography is basically a checkup on if I'm still dope. You know? It's like I'm training all the time, but it's like, are you still good? And it's like, let's see, you know? So like stuff like this piece, for example, that we learned, the intro, the part where it's Tiller's in the street, all that stuff, these are like less of me making a piece and more of me seeing like, does this work? Is this interesting? Is this unique? Do I see anybody doing this? This feels weird, this feels different. Can I make this work if I do it the right way? So it's basically, yeah, checking on if I still like kind of got it, checking on if like, how far can I push this? Does this excite me anymore? It's like really big questions when I choreograph these days, you know? And it's really just, you know, most of the time that I'm choreographing these days, as far as the piece is concerned, it's really just for class, right? So like back in the day, it was kind of like, I didn't have any industry work at all. So it was like, every piece that I had was like my baby. It was like, I carried this piece around, I had maybe 8 pieces a year. And it's like, this was my piece of art. you know? And this was like my thing that I made. And I want to share this with everybody. I worked really hard on it. I took a lot of time on it. And these days, my focus is so spread within all of dance and all of art and music and all these different things that when it comes time to choreograph a class combo, I want that class to be pushed alongside me as much as possible, because I'm maybe not seeing certain people be pushed in class. So I want to be that one thing that's coming in for certain people that's like really different, you know? And I want to serve that purpose, so I really focus on pushing myself as a creator so I can push the class as a whole. Because I see a lot of classes that are focused on getting from this part of the song to this part of the song so the video is good, and not so much about was everybody training, was everybody like really getting a lot out of it, right? So I want to just make sure that me and everybody are getting as much as we can out of that class, because what good does it do me after this long of dancing to do like a 2-minute solo or something like that, right? It's like, I know I can dance good, right? I want to come to class to share and push so that I can see people like roasting my stuff, and then I go, oh, okay, well I guess I gotta level up, you know? Okay, people are getting really good. Okay, let's take it up a step, right? Because back when I first started choreographing, I'd come into a room and maybe 0 people would have the dance right because it's like a really weird style or whatever. But the level of dance is always raising. It's always raising because you guys have internet, all these videos, and you're getting good just by hanging out in your room at your crib. Whereas like I used to have to travel to get the knowledge, right? So every time that everybody's leveling up, it's like, okay, I have to level up. I have to level up. And it's really just a game at that point, you know? But I would say as far as like what inspires me, it's like one thing I can say on the opposite end of what inspires me is if you're choreographing and you aren't feeling it, the thing about art, especially when you're trying to nurture your art at the beginning of the creation process, is that if you're not feeling it, you have to stop and not force it. Because you'll never get a pure expression and you'll never find yourself in any way if you're forcing something out, because it's not going to be genuine. By the time you're forcing something and not feeling it anymore, it's really just it's probably borrowing from somebody or something too heavily, because you're stuck and it's all you know and you want to just move past it, right? But the real goal is to see how far you can push yourself, right? And what you can create that's unique. So if it doesn't feel that way, the moment I start feeling uninspired, even within what I'm doing, I'll just drop it right then and there. I'll try and push it a little bit, you know? Like maybe give it 5 minutes, come back to it, take a breather. But beyond that, you have to leave it because it has to be real. It has to be a real expression. And if you're not feeling expressive, you can't expect to have a dope piece of art, you know? Yes?
What made you come to Canada?
Oh, so the reason why I'm here is that I don't even know how this happened. We just got my pops just got like a random email, and it was a production company shooting a commercial for, you guys know the lenses that they go from like regular prescription glasses to sunglasses in the sun. So yeah, so we're choreographing, Minade and Shay's the lead in this commercial for these sunglasses. So that's what we've been doing the last week. Lots of meetings, long days, and we still have the shoots. So we got 4 days of shooting here. So it's it's like a big task. And I was really worried that I wasn't gonna get a chance to come and teach guys, but we squeezed it in. So I'm glad it happened. Anybody else? What's up, bro?
Okay.
Yeah.
What's up? Okay, so specifically like regarding dance camps.
Yeah.
Like what would you advise somebody or like recommend to somebody that would possibly want to engage and eventually eventually like become like a traveling choreographer
Yeah.
and teaching at camps, or rather getting into like a choreographer's agency?
Yeah.
Like what would you like recommend or say?
So like, that's a difficult question in the sense that like, I was at the beginning of this lifestyle before it was a lifestyle. Like, when I was starting to travel and teach, my first job, I had to have my dad come with me and make sure that I got paid for every class, and then we still got ripped off at the end and they didn't pay me for my last class. And they just sent me home on a flight because they said, either you're gonna not leave or you're gonna not have your money, like one of the two, right? People were getting deported at the time. Like, this was like not really a real lifestyle to have. It was very like under the table. People are getting paid like straight cash for everything. Like, you know, I was like really young, walking around with like a lot of money in my pocket, just out and about in Europe, just by myself, just like with tons of money in my pocket, just like, this is so scary, right? So the short answer of that and the easy answer of that is put your work out and really believe in your work. And if it's unique enough, I have faith that the right people will see you and the right people will like give you a cosign to the point where you get invited to be a part of something special. So it really comes all the way down to relationships, okay? There's two ways to do it. One is go viral and be popular, which I would not recommend. Number two is work really hard and earn respect and make connections with the right person to earn you a spot so that you can really showcase what you're worth. This way, the viral way, will get you there faster, but by getting there that way, all the people that take the craft seriously automatically put so many question marks by your name and are already so hesitant to accept you that it's going to be harder to win these people over with your skill than if you just represent yourself authentically and purely and build connections with people. Like I said, you know, both can get you there, but I think that if you really love what you do, the one version will allow you to be a lot more at peace with yourself as a person in the experience of it all, right? Because if you're caught up in the internet part of how you got somewhere, it's going to be really hard to make a long-lasting impression on people. Because more likely than not, if you get there too fast, you might not actually have anything worth value to offer somebody. And then it might take you a while to realize that you don't have much to offer. And then at that point, you're scrambling to become authentic in a space where you could have just gone this way the whole time. It might be a little bit slower this way, but me and Ade were actually just talking about this today. It's like, you hear me talk about like a lot of numbers and percentages, right? And this is the way that I like break a lot of stuff down in my head. It's like, okay, if you have a scale over here that's like you're really successful, but you're not necessarily doing exactly like what you love to do. You're doing a modification of it for the sake of being more successful. And then this version over here is that you're really at peace with yourself and you feel good about what you're doing. Maybe you're not as successful, but you know that your impact has a really high value, right? Now, you have these two scales. Inside, if you put 100% into this, but at the end of the day, you still feel empty, maybe years later, days later, however long later, you still feel empty inside because you weren't true to yourself. That actually takes this 100% and all this value and all this money that you made, and it actually drops it down to zero, if not negative, because you're in a worse place from than where you started. Okay? Now, if you're over here, and you really believe in what you do, but it's a challenge, right? If you put 10% in investment in over here, guess what happens to that 10%? It just stays at 10%. It doesn't go down because you spent the time. This is always building, and the only way that this gets knocked down is when your head convinces you that what you're doing isn't worthwhile, or other people convince you that what you're doing isn't worthwhile. But if you really believe and you really focus and you care harder than anybody else will ever care for you, you can only build. It's only stepping up from where you're at. You see what I'm saying? Time, yeah, sorry, I'll talk forever, my bad. Okay. Yeah, let's take some pictures. Let's do it. Thank you guys so much.